Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to factor quadratics when a is equal to 1. And when I say a is equal to 1, that just means there's no number in front of this x squared, because when there's no number there, we treat it like it's a 1. We just don't write it. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out what b equals, and we need to figure out what c equals. Now, b is always going to be the number in front of your x here. So it's going to be this positive 5. The sign goes with it. It's a positive 5. C is always this number at the end here. So C is going to be positive 6. And now we need to find two numbers that will multiply to give us C. So they need to multiply to give us 6. And those same two numbers need to add to give us B. So they need to add to give us 5. And I like to make a table like this. Put C on the left and B on the right. And now what we can do is we can start by thinking of numbers that will multiply to give us positive 6. So the first two numbers that pop into my brain that will multiply to give us 6 is 1 times 6. So 1 times 6 will give us 6. Also, negative 1 times negative 6 will give us 6. 2 times 3 will give us 6. And also, negative 2 times negative 3 will multiply to give us 6. So these are all of our options for multiplying to get 6. Now what we need to do is we need to figure out which pair of numbers will add to give us 5. Well, let's look at these sums. Let's add them together. 1 plus 6 gives us 7. That won't work. Negative 1 plus negative 6 gives us negative 7. That won't work. 2 plus 3 gives us 5, and that is exactly what we wanted. That's our b value. So our two numbers here are 2 and 3. Now what we do with those two numbers is we make a set of binomials. So we make a set of parentheses. We put our variable first. So in this problem, our variable is x. And then we fill in our two numbers. So our 2 and our 3. So we'll put a plus 2. And we'll put a plus 3. So the factored version of x squared plus 5x plus 6 is x plus 2 times x plus 3. All right, let's look at another example. All right, now we've got n squared minus 11n plus 10. So in this problem, b is equal to negative 11, and c is equal to 10. So let's make our table here. We've got c equals 10, and b equals negative 11. So we need two numbers that will multiply to give us 10 and add to give us negative 11. So let's see what we can come up with here. Now, the first two numbers I think of that will multiply to give me 10 are going to be 1 and 10. I think that's the simplest one to start with. So 1 times 10 will give us 10. And also, negative 1 times negative 10 will multiply to give us 10. And also, we could use 2 and 5. 2 times 5 will give us 10. And also, negative 2 times negative 5 will multiply to give us 10. And these are all of our options. If we keep going, we would get to 5 times 2, and we would just be repeating pairs of numbers. So we can stop here. These are all the different pairs of numbers that will multiply to give us 10, and now we just need to find the pair that adds to give us negative 11. Well, let's start adding them together. 1 plus 10 gives us positive 11. That's not what we want. Okay, let's try negative 1 plus negative 10. And right here, -1 plus -10 does add to give us -11. That is what we want. So our two numbers are -1 and -10. So those are the two numbers we'll use in our factors over here. So our two factors, using our two numbers, -1 and -10, will be n minus 1 and n minus 10. Okay, so the factored version of n squared minus 11n plus 10 is going to be n minus 1 times n minus 10. Our third example is going to be n squared plus 4n minus 12. So b in this problem is going to be 4. C is -12. And let's make our table. Our C is -12. We got to multiply to get -12. We have to add to get 4. And let's start thinking of numbers here that will work. And the first thing I want you to notice is that since we're multiplying to get a negative number, since C is negative, the signs on our numbers have to be different. The only way you can multiply to get a negative number is if you have different signs on the numbers you're multiplying. So to start off with, we could start with -1 times +12. That'll multiply to give us -12. We could also have +1 and -12. Okay, those are our first pairs of numbers. We could also have -2 and 6, and 2 and -6, -3 and 4, and +3 and -4. And we just need to figure out which pair adds to give us our b value, our 4. Well, -1 plus 12 gives us 11. That is not what we want. 1 plus -12 gives us -11. That is also not what we want. -2 plus 6 gives us 4, and that is exactly what we want. So that is our two, those are our two numbers, -2 and 6. So our factors here will be n minus 2 and n plus 6. Okay, so that's our factored version of n squared plus 4n minus 12. Let's look at one more example. Our last one is n squared minus n minus 56. So b in this problem is -1. Now remember, if there's no number in front of your n value, it's just a negative sign, we treat that like a -1. And c here is going to be -56. Just like that. And now let's set up our table. C is -56, so we have to multiply to get -56. B is -1, we have to add to get -1. And now let's think about numbers that might work. And remember, since C is negative again, we have to have different signs on our numbers again, just like we did before. So I'm going to start off with -1 and 56. That'll multiply to give us -56. Next, we could have +1 and -56. We could have -2 and 28. We could have 2 and -28, just like this. And if we keep going, -4 and 14. We could have +4 and -14. And -7 and 8. +7 and -8. Just like that. And now if you start adding these together, the pair of numbers that will work, I'll let you check these, but the pair of numbers that work is +7 and -8. If you add those together, you do end up with -1, which is what we want. So now our two factors here will be n plus 7 and n minus 8, since our two numbers were +7 and -8. So that is the factored version of n squared minus n minus 56. I hope this helped, and I hope you have a wonderful day.